Good evening. Before we call this meeting to order, Randy Haddock, are you here? Okay, good. We're going to let Mr. Haddock with the Cahaba River Society to do a 3 to 5 minute presentation.
How do you do? At your last June 25th City Council meeting, you adopted 3 ordinances that ADM asserted you must in order to implement your MS4 permit. We were particularly interested in the post-construction portion of that. You'd been given a version from SWIMA that we found some pretty significant shortcomings in that SWIMA version. So the Society wanted to thank you for allowing us to have conversations with your staff, with the Public Works Committee, and to make what we saw as some significant improvements in that ordinance. I think the Cahaba River and the citizens of Homewood will benefit from those changes, and we just wanted to say thank you for that and that we appreciated that. We're kind of an advocacy group, and if I may pass this to the president, just some information about the Cahaba River Society, let you know our board of directors and information, what we do, how we do it, and we hope that you will think of us as a resource to you in the future for issues about the river and about environmental management. And lastly, I want to thank the Homewood Environmental Committee and Amy Milam for the help that they gave us. I think that they contributed to improving that ordinance considerably. Thank you.
Yes, sir. We'll be happy to pass those out for you. Thank you. All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. We'll begin with an invocation which Council Member Jones has agreed to offer forth. And then we're going to ask one of our guests, Scout members, help me.
Johnson.
Okay.
Troop 97. Ask him to come forward, and after I say the prayer, then if you'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, that would be great.
Thank you.
God before country. So, if you'll bow your head with me. Dear wise and loving Father, thank you for all that are gathered here tonight. Thank you for our abundant blessings that you bestow upon us. Thank you for life itself, for our health. Thank you for our calling as to why we're all here together. We pray for our agenda set before us, and we thank all the members of the employees within the city of Homewood and all her residents. We ask all this in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both. Appreciate it. Roll call.
Mr. Gwaltney?
Here.
Mr. Thames?
Here.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Here.
Mr. Wolverton?
Here.
Mr. McCluskey?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Wyatt?
Here.
Mrs. Andrus?
Here.
Mr. Wright?
Here.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Here. So all are present and accounted for. We are going to carry over the reading of the minutes. And the next item is board vacancies. The BEZ Ward 3 interviews, we've got multiple individuals that have applied for that. So we will we'll ask Mr. Burgett's office to schedule those interviews and encourage each and every council member that can make those would be good. Are there any other vacancies to either nominate or post? All right, thank you very much. We've got 2 amendments to the agenda tonight. The first one is new business. It's 060718. Request to consider proposal from Captain D's to purchase city property at 431 Green Springs Highway, put forth by Mayor McBrayer. And again, that's new business. We have a committee referral agenda item, which is 070718, which is request to authorize the city attorney to enter into negotiations with Milo's Tea for headquarter relocation And again, this is a referral to finance requested by myself. If there are any others, please mention those.
I do have a addition to the committee referral agenda, please.
I'm sorry, committee to,
For Public Works, for the committee referral agenda
Okay.
for Public Works. It is an item, let me get the name of the resident, to consider. Greg, is Greg here? Yeah. Where's Greg? What would you call that today with Miss Rutsky? Sorry, she's elderly and she is wanting this to be on next week's agenda, next week's committee agenda.
what do we need there?
She moves
Mr.
around
Collins?
quite well. It's a ditch behind their house, behind the adjoining properties. They have Malaga and, I'm trying to think what street's behind Malaga. Don't know. But
The
anyway,
address is
it's an
212
open ditch.
Malaga.
Behind 212 Malaga.
Okay.
Yes. Some consideration on some work from Homewood back there.
Thank you.
So request for consideration at 212 Malaga for
Within right of way.
Drainage work?
drainage work. Okay, sure.
Okay.
And that will be a committee referral item to Public Works.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we have 3 items. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for approval of the amended agenda.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Higginbotham, second from Ms. Smith. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and that is passed. All right, we'll move on to the agenda. The consent agenda, Chair would welcome a motion and a second for approval.
So, second.
Okay, motion from Mr. Thames, second from Ms. Smith. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is unanimous. Okay, we'll move into old business agenda. 150618, public hearing that was set for June 25th, 2018 at 6 p.m. to consider declaring the property located at 260 Oxmoor Road a public nuisance due to violation of ordinances 1910 and 1750 excessive growth and ordinance 1098 litter. That was that was a public hearing that we continued through tonight. So, Mr. Cook, any additional information?
Oh, yes. The owners have been out there with several crews doing a lot of work in between last week's afternoon rains. And as of right now, I feel like they're in compliance.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Cook while he's up here?
No, but I would move to drop.
Okay, well, let's
we have to
close
close the public hearing.
Let us
Sorry.
close the public hearing
No
first.
questions. I'll move to
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this item other than Mr. Cook? There being none, we will close the public hearing. And Ms.
Now?
Smith?
I'd move to drop.
Okay, we have a motion from Ms. Smith. Do we have a second? Second from Mr. Jones. All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So 1506-18 is dropped. All right, public hearing set 10-06-18. Public hearing set for tonight for consideration of condemning a house at the following address, 101 Ventura Avenue, put forth by Wyatt Pugh. We'll start with a report from Planning and Development.
Yes, sir. The committee met and voted 3-0 to recommend sending this to full council without a recommendation pending the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Thames. Let's open the public hearing. Mr. Pugh.
You have a packet in front of you which shows pictures of the condition and also a code violations report. I'll be glad to answer any questions about that. But one thing to note, this property has recently been sold, and the new owners, the Manns, M-A-N-N is their last name, they have, I actually spoke to them today. They say they are currently getting bids for demolition. So I did let them know that this house would probably go ahead and be condemned, but if they move forward in a timely fashion with demolition, I won't interfere with that in any way.
Right. Okay, any questions of Mr. Pugh while he's up here?
I would just add that I spoke with a homeowner today too, and she said they plan to get a permit from the city in the next 2 weeks. Once they figure out which company they're going to use, they're currently bidding the job out, that they've been in and out of town, but they are the new owners and they are definitely planning on demolishing the building.
All right, thank you. Okay, is there anyone else here who would like to speak to this matter? Yes, please. Oh, by the way, anyone who wishes to speak, please sign in with Ms. Burgett with your name and current address. And I would say to all of y'all that we would ask you to help us, for the sake of allowing everyone to speak who would like to speak, to limit conversations to about 3 minutes, if you could, please. We do want to hear what you have to say.
My name is David Geldmacher. I reside at 205 Bonita Drive, just down the block from the property
Sure.
under consideration. And I strongly endorse the need for demolition. I'm a physician at UAB, and I think it presents a significant risk to the public health if movement is not taken on it. I walk my dogs past it on a daily basis, and I'm always concerned about vermin, pests, and the predators that attack those. And I think the property in its current state presents a public health risk. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Doctor. Anyone else want to speak to this matter? Please feel free to do so. All right, if not, we're going to close this. Again, any comments from the council other than Ms. Andrus? Mr. Wright?
Can we drop it? I mean,
Well, we don't want to do that. I think what we want to do is, in my best judgment, is
we just carry it over until
carry it over.
Okay.
We'll, the public hearing's closed, but we can.
Let's go ahead and condemn it.
Let's go ahead and condemn
We
it.
won't be out there tomorrow with a bulldozer.
Well, we can't do anything for 30 days.
Okay, well, good.
And
Mr. Jones.
declare it a public nuisance.
All right, motion from Mr. Jones, second from Mr. Gwaltney.
Condemnation.
If there are no other comments, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this is Resolution 1889. And again, as Mr. Kendrick said, this will give the folks 30 days to either do what needs to be done or will do what should be done. All right, 11:06:18, public hearing set for tonight for consideration of condemning a house at the following address, 2900 16th Place South, put forth by Mr. Pugh. Report from P&D, Mr. Thames.
Yes, sir. The committee met and viewed the recommendations and voted 3-0 to send this to full council without a recommendation pending the hearing.
Thank you, sir. All right, at this point, we will open the public hearing. And Mr. Pugh, you've been good enough to provide us with some photographs.
Yes, sir, and there are some on the screens as well. It's pretty self-evident, the condition. A tree at one time fell on this way back and created some major problems for this. It wasn't until, and as you can see, we've posted there's postings on the property in bright colors, so. But I was actually contacted late Friday afternoon by the homeowner. I believe an elderly woman who said she's had some health problems and didn't know this was the case. She said, according to her, she's not done anything with it because she was of the understanding that the city had promised to fix the creek behind her house. And because the erosion, according to her, is what caused the tree to fall, and it goes on and on. But I did have Greg Cobb go out and take a look at it as well, just to see if he recalled any past promises made to that effect, and he did not. So I don't know what to tell her.
Thank you, Mr. Pugh. Yeah, wait a minute, too. Mr. Thames?
I spoke with the homeowner who is here this evening last week, and she relayed the same to me.
Okay, great.
I think she said, and she can confirm, that this started, I believe, in '94, which obviously was before my time, your time.
Sure.
And I guess Greg would be the only person that could possibly collaborate that or give us any more information. But yeah, she did. relay the same information to me, and here comes Mr. Cobb, and maybe he can enlighten us a little bit.
I'm sorry, someone else said,
I just
Ms. Smith?
I just want to clarify, this is just regarding the garage, not the
Yes.
house itself, just the garage in the back of the house.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Mr. Cobb?
The water running back there is running in an open ditch. It's heavily vegetated, I mean, thick enough that I couldn't even get to it without a bush hook or something. But as long as I've been here, which is a little over 19 years, we've never offered or even thought about working on that ditch. The upstream side of it had cinder block walls that was put in by Miss Graffio. City didn't do that work either. And she also put a top on it here in about the last year or so, maybe a little longer ago. But the city's not done anything over there as long as I've been here. Now, I don't know if somebody promised something prior to that, but I don't know anything about it.
Any other questions for Mr. Cobb? Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, is there anyone else who wants to speak to this matter? Again, ma'am, if you'll sign in, please. We very much want to hear what you have to say.
That's okay. Bonnie O'Bannon.
And
I'm
you
Bonnie
are?
O'Bannon. I have the garage in question. In 1994, I talked with Sherry Trawick, who was the councilman that always wore the hat. Y'all remember her?
Sure.
About the creek erosion. The creek was about 8 feet wide at that time. It looks like it's about 20 feet wide now. It has taken the granite blocks from my patio. It has taken all 5 of the dogwood trees that used to be at the very tail end of the Homewood dogwood trail that was here years and years ago. That y'all are probably too young to remember. I have planted bamboo, monkey grass. I asked the city if I could put riprap down to stabilize the creek and was advised that I could not do that the city would do it. For about 12 years, I asked that something could be done to the creek and kept being promised that it was tied into a project here, a project there, the Bellevue Circle project. And the last time I talked with the prior mayor, he basically said, don't call me, we'll call you. We're going to fix it, but it is tied to a project in West Homewood, but that project has been delayed by some sort of a snail. I don't know. So he basically said, sit tight, we're going to fix it. I said, okay, if the creek erodes my garage, I'll call y'all to fix it. And I have not heard back from the city yet. I've been patiently waiting. I didn't want to disturb anybody. I didn't want to bother y'all, but now I don't know what to do. Okay?
Any questions?
Oh, one more comment. I have had other neighbors that have worked with the city because of the erosion in the creek. One neighbor's kitchen was flooding as a result of the creek, and the city did repair that. I had another neighbor who did get an attorney involved to do some work on the other side of the street from the creek. In fact, I lent my notes to them. I shouldn't tell y'all that. I lent my notes to them to show the progression of the erosion of the creek. And I spoke with Henry Hughes. Do y'all remember him, the arborist? He was talking about water erosion at the Botanical Gardens a couple of months ago, and he said if you close up one end of an area, then the remaining area takes the brunt of the pressure from that closed-in area and blows it out more, and that could have caused more problems with the creek. And somebody has closed in the other side of the street. Now, I talked with Britt the other day, and I think, no, it might have been Wyatt that I was speaking with, who said that it was private property on the other side of the street. But I'd always been told that it was city property on my side of the street, and I was not allowed to do anything to it. So, okay. Any questions?
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak to this matter?
Question, and I haven't seen a survey, but the creek, is it on her property? Is there a right-of-way there? I don't know.
I don't know.
Here comes
Mr.
Greg
Cobb?
to let us know.
The tax map shows a 10-foot paper alley that runs there where the creek should be. Now, whether or not the creek is in those bounds, I have no idea because it meanders, it being natural as it does. But on the tax map, it does show a 10-foot paper alley that goes behind her property and turns, and I think it has another turn in it. It's real vague. But being as how grown up as it is, I have no idea if the ditch is in the right of way or not.
Is there a way to determine that definitively?
We have to get a surveyor to stake it for us. But it being a natural ditch, it's probably never going to stay in its bounds, you know,
I understand.
especially in the turns. So, and
Thoughts,
that's the way it is
Mr.
across the
Times?
street. It's open, and it's some places people have put pipes in, and some places it's open. It does a variety of things upstream.
Well, you know, and we've had this conversation before when people have come to us and wanted the city to turn creeks on their property into culverts and things like that. This is the creek Andy and I mentioned the last conversation that this drainage wasn't put in by the city originally. The person across the street elected to cover it themselves
Yes, sir.
about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Right.
I think.
She did. She put the lid on it. She asked us to do it, and I've got concerns about that. And I went out there one day and it's covered.
Yep.
So, you know.
Well, we have to, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Mr. Pugh, regardless of how we got here, what's your ultimate opinion of the structure itself?
Well, the structure itself really needs a contractor at the very least to go in and evaluate what kind of structural members need to be replaced. With a tree having fallen on it, it's hard to tell. I mean, obviously the roof system is broken, but other than that, it's hard to say. It is locked up. It is locked up tight, so there's no danger of any person wandering into it, but obviously water and pests can enter through the roof.
So is there any potential of the tree falling, or is it just resting on the structure itself?
The tree has been removed.
Oh, okay. The tree's not.
Yeah, there's no tree actually laying on it at the moment.
I'm just concerned, there's a lot of kids in that area. They're
Right.
quite active.
Well,
Yes, sir.
I think the question is begged to be asked right now. With this detached garage, ma'am, what is your intention in terms of repairing it because of the tree?
Oh, I'd love to repair it and use it again.
Okay. I guess my question was, please come to the microphone.
What's holding me up?
Well, obviously money, and we all
Well,
understood
it's
that.
money, but if the creek comes any closer in, it's just going to take the garage down again. I mean, the creek bank has widened that much. I used to have a beautiful garden back behind that garage, and I won't even go back there anymore. The city, some years ago, had put chain link and like pig wire fencing on both sides of the creek. It's even washed away.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that information. Again, this is narrowly defined as dealing with the detached garage.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it is to be condemned or not to be condemned.
Yeah.
And,
Well, it's a concrete block structure, and several years ago, I had a steel beam put across the top and a metal roof put across the top. So it's basically a stable building, except where that tree from the creek came down and took a section of one wall out.
Well,
And
again,
caved part of the ceiling in. So it's not usable right now. Well, one side is on the inside, but the other side's not.
is your intention to make it usable again at this point?
I would love to make it usable again, but I'm afraid to until the creek gets stabilized.
Well, we're kind of at an impasse here.
Mr. Cobb, how far is the garage from the creek? Because I'm looking at a street view picture of it, And it appears to be heavily wooded, like you mentioned, on her side of that creek. The house on the other side is relatively close, and I can find out if they have issues with flooding, but I don't believe they do. So how close is this house, the garage, to the creek?
I was out there today, and I really didn't pay attention to the distance, but I would say it's probably maybe 15 feet. You think that's right?
From the creek to the garage, how about 2.5 feet?
Well, I walked up to it today, behind the garage. Is it maybe on the other corner? Is that where it is, on the far corner of the street? Okay, because I couldn't see over there, so, but on the other side, it's.
If you'll make an appointment where I can meet you out there, I'll show you.
Oh, I'm not worried about that.
Okay.
I can go anytime.
Okay.
I'm all over the city, so it's not a problem.
Okay.
I'll walk over and look at the far corner. I didn't look at the far corner, but I'll go back and do that tomorrow.
Why don't we do this?
Tomorrow, Blue Jean Day.
Okay, why don't we do this? Y'all set up a time to get together, get us, as Mr. Waltney suggested, and I think it's a good one. We will carry this over. We'll leave the public hearing open, and you'll get us some facts, and that'll give you a chance, ma'am, to. I mean, we really do have to deal with the narrowly defined item here, which is what's your intent on the garage?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I understand what you wish. I do, ma'am. But we really do need an answer on that. And if y'all can get us that information, Mr. Cobb, and get us that answer, ma'am, in 2 weeks, then we'll go forward from there, okay? Thank you. What, Mr. Jones?
Well,
Never know we did either.
it just seems like this is a public nuisance in terms of the overgrowth that has not been maintained. And then the structure is not sound, and you're telling us you're not going to do anything until the creek is taken care of, and that's not going to happen anytime soon. So we're not going to be anywhere, any different place in 2 weeks, in my opinion. I feel like it's on the city's behalf that we need to declare it a public nuisance and move for demolition. That's my view on this, because I just don't see us being in a different spot 2 weeks from now.
Well, a couple of things. One, Mr. Pugh did say that he didn't feel like this structure held any danger at this point. You thought it was secure, right?
But that's not what your report says.
Well, you're exactly right.
Your report,
Well, wait.
if you want me to read your report, unsafe conditions. Roof framing is deteriorated, showing signs of fatigue and failure. Flooring components, substructure deteriorated, exhibiting failure under fatigue.
I think Mr. Pugh's position was it was not open to the public.
Nobody could get into it currently.
Foundation walls are not maintained in such condition to prevent the entry of rodents and other pests. So, do you think it's
address that?
secure?
I think if you read my report, what I think I'm saying is it's not safe to occupy. It's
Okay.
not safe to use in any manner. But it is locked up, it is secured, there's no open windows or
Okay.
doors. So, and I'm not particularly concerned, being that it is a masonry and metal building, that it's in any danger of just falling down
Okay.
of its own weight. So, maybe that helps.
Mr. Jones, with all due respect, and I
that's fine.
appreciate your opinion, I am curious to get a measurement on that, as Mr. Waltney suggested, and yes.
I was trying to draw the parallel. The creek's not our responsibility, as I understand, to maintain, because it's not on city property. Is that correct? I was really just
That
curious
hasn't been
to be
determined.
Trying to factually determine if it's impacting it or not. I pass that creek all the time, going to and from the office, and I've never seen it overflow its banks. Even 2 weeks ago, whenever the Griffin Creek was overflowing its banks, we came back that way and I didn't see that. But it may do it, but the property has been a nuisance for a significant period of time, and it needs care and attention. And the neighbors across the street repeatedly ping me about this property and their concerns about it. So there's a lot of folks in the neighborhood that are concerned about it, and it needs some attention.
Well, again, we'll leave the public hearing open. We look forward to the information, Mr. Cobb. We look forward to getting some input, okay?
Thank you.
I appreciate it. All right. We'll move on. 120618, public hearing set for tonight for consideration of condemning a house at the following address, 1602 Ridge Road. Report from P&D, Mr. Thames.
Yes, sir. P&D met on the 18th. We reviewed Mr. Pugh's findings and voted 3-0 to send it out without recommendation.
Thank you. Public hearing is open. Mr. Pugh.
All right, I've included in the packet a code violations report as well as some pictures. Taking pictures of this property is easier said than done because it is being occupied. However, occupancy is definitely not approved. It is in violation of the property maintenance code. There's a large rotted out area above the rear doors that's wide open to pests and the elements. There's no working plumbing, no facilities that are operable. That's a code violation. There's no power, excuse me, there's no power on the house. That's a code violation. The house has numerous openings, and also the exterior decks. There's an exterior deck, sort of like a bridge that goes from the road to the front door. It's dangerous. I mean, it's very wobbly and rotten underneath, and there's some decks that go around the back and sides that I wouldn't get on.
Mr. Pugh, is there anything else you want to say about the unsafe conditions, or does that pretty well cover it?
I think that pretty well covers it, yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Pugh? Ms. Smith?
I would just like to say that Alex and I have been dealing with this property for quite a long time, and Scott Cook, if he's here, can probably tell us how many times we've posted it for overgrowth and had the yard four times we've had the yard cleaned up, and we've had lots of problems, lots of complaints. So I just want to say that it's an ongoing issue, and it's not safe.
Thank you, Mr. Pugh.
Thank you.
All right, if there's anyone else who wants to speak to this matter, please come sign in.
I'm Jim Dobbs.
I'm sorry, into the microphone, please.
I am Jim Dobbs.
Okay, Mr. Dobbs.
I live there at the house. I occupy the house mainly for storage, and every once in a while I'll even stay there and sleep there. The house is not unsafe, and the roof is good. Everything's fine. Spire's been in the street in front of my house now for over 2 months, which makes it very difficult to maintain the yard in front of the house. But we are presently looking at a couple of potential buyers, trying to make that happen as quickly as possible. And that's pretty much what I got to say.
All right, any questions for Mr. Dobbs? Mr. White?
Mr. Dobbs, how long has the house been without running water?
What happened was in '09, I was visiting family in North Carolina and got hit by a car on the side of the road.
Sorry.
And ended up with a broken neck, comatose, numerous other injuries that took a long time to heal up from. So in the meantime, my business here in town went under, and I wasn't here to make payments on the utilities. So it's been since 12 or 13. I think
Since 2012 or 2013?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they were taken care of till about then.
Has the house been foreclosed?
No, sir. There is an obvious problem with the
been sold for
a
taxes.
failure to record deeds by the bank that has that is,
It's been reported to us previously that someone else owns that house through a tax sale.
Mike, a gentleman owns the tax lien.
Yeah.
He purchased the tax lien,
Right.
I think.
what's his
in-
name?
I can't remember his name, but
Mr. Dobbs,
Wyatt, do you remember the guy's name?
Turner Farms, yeah.
Yeah, Turner Farms. Yes, that's correct. He and his son came to the, abatement board.
A couple of years ago.
yes.
yes.
Mr. Dobbs, we're terribly sorry about your misfortunes, but this house has been a nuisance and a hazard to the public health for 5, 6, 7 years. And
Well, I'm only recently back here to try to do something
Somebody's
with
been
it.
living
I've been
there
trying to,
without
I've been trying
power.
hard to effect a sale on it now for almost 2 years.
well, you can sell that house in that location if you choose to do that. I can tell you the real estate is very valuable there. And people have been up here trying to tell us they've tried to buy it from you. The problem is, we've got to either fix the house, you've got to fix it, or we need to demolish it.
Well,
It's a nuisance to the neighborhood, and I'm sorry for that.
well, I'm trying to get it sold.
Well,
I'm not holding anybody up for a high price.
unfortunately, that has gone on for over 5 years.
I've only been back for a couple, but anyway.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dobbs. Anyone else have a question for Mr. Dobbs? If not, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right, anyone else that want to speak to this item? If not, we will go ahead and close this public hearing. Comments from the council?
I would
Motion?
I would just reiterate that we've had complaints ongoing for several years from the neighbors some of whom are here. And there are children nearby, and it is a dangerous and frankly disgusting situation. And I would move that we move to condemn the house.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Ms. Smith, second from Mr. White. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that is there any opposed? And that is unanimous. All right, and that is Resolution 1890. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to 130618, request public hearing set for tonight for consideration of condemning a house at the following address, 28 Edge Hill Road. Report from P&D, Mr. Thames.
Yes, sir. Committee met met on June 18th, reviewed Mr. Pugh's findings, and voted 3-0 to send it to full council without recommendation pending the public hearing.
All right, thank you, sir. We will now open that public hearing. Mr. Pugh.
All right, I've enclosed the packet with pictures of the exterior and the interior. The ones from the interior were sent to me by Scott Cook, who I believe he obtained these from, I believe he said a fireman. But this house has been sitting in this exact same condition for quite a while. And other than being unsafe, I get reports on a regular basis that the front door is open. It doesn't have a door knob on it, so it looks like the door could it's probably wedged shut most of the time, but it looks like it could be easily kicked open. And I think that's probably what's happening. Also, all of the windows on the inside are painted totally from the inside, so not only is there probably years of mold in there, but there's no light that can get in to help disinfect that. But despite the fact that it's actually a pretty stately looking brick house in the picture, it's not as stable structurally as it looks. There's a lot of cracks. There's a lot of leaning courses of brick. All sorts of sort of giveaways that there's some structural trouble here. So I don't think anyone would argue that this house is salvageable, not in any feasible manner. Also, a neighbor, Miss Barrett, she has to look at the back of it all the time, and there's a window that has fallen out. She called me the other day to report.
All right, wait a second. Any other questions of Mr. Pugh?
Is this Dr. Johnny's house?
Yes. Yes, sir. I was contacted by a woman living out of state, and she claimed to be the daughter-in-law, but I even sent her a letter letting her know there would be a public hearing if she wanted to even to chime in by email, and she never responded, so.
Thank you, Mr. Pugh. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am? And your
My
name
name-
is?
My name is Vicki Barrett, and I live at 113 Yorkshire Drive. My backyard is catty-corner to the 28 Edge Hill Road. And I've been at that address for 8 years, and I can tell you that when I purchased my home, those windows were painted shut. There were a lot of coming and going in the middle of the night, and it was disturbing to most of the neighbors, but Mr. Peoples was elderly and I think probably in pretty poor health, so we just didn't complain. He has been deceased for 2 years this month, and the property is just, if it could get any worse, it's worse. There have been trees falling in the backyard that you can't even see because there's so much foliage growing over it. And for me now, I have a mosquito treatment thing that comes out.
Right.
They can't control it. They're coming out twice a month, and I think it's probably from they're just being just overwhelming. I have seen the window fall. I've seen one of the big windows in the back fall out, like the whole window, not a glass, but like the whole frame and everything just fall in where there's brick, and somebody came and put it back in. So anything you could do to give us some relief from that house would be great.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett.
Thank you.
Any other questions of her?
Have you had any communication with the family yourself? Haven't seen anyone
No,
over there
and
or anything?
I didn't know the family. I mean, I've met him a few times, but
Okay, thank you.
I don't think he has family. When I buried him 2 years ago, there were family.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you for coming forth. Sir?
Yeah, my name's Chad Slaughter, and I live at 29 Edge Hill, so I'm on the front side of the property. And I've been in my house for 18 years. And the day I bought my house, I thought this house was condemned. It had 3 holes in the roof the size of basketballs, and it was that way for 8 years. The front door, as the gentleman pointed out, does not stay shut. I've tried to nail it shut. I've tried to screw it shut, but any kind of wind comes through, the wood is so rotting, it pulls it out. So my biggest concern is, one, yes, it's the rodents. There is mold. There is mold in the house. I've been in the home, and it's covered with mold. 10 years ago, we actually called, and the city actually came out and gave him a large list of the items he had to repair before they condemned the den, including the roof was done. They put in several floor jacks, but it was falling apart then, and it's falling apart now. Biggest concern I have is we have grade school age boys in the neighborhood who are very adventurous. And that's
Sure.
when I'm worried. That door kicks open, it's a rite of passage. Who's going to go through Dr. Johnny's house? And you see from the pictures, that's what it's scary. So not only would I love to see the property be removed, because you can't salvage it, but we need to get something, a door or something on there ASAP before a little boy gets in that house. As far as Johnny having family, I don't believe he does. Brian, maybe we want to talk about that a little more. There was a moving van in the property today pulling out stuff. I met a gentleman over there a couple of months ago going through it, and he said his niece was the heir. So I don't know, but they were moving furniture out today. So that's all I have.
That's strange.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else want to speak to this item? Please sign in.
Hello, hello.
Yes, sir, you are.
Brian Lindsay.
Mr. Lindsay.
I live next door to the house.
Ooh, I'm sorry.
All I know is that he had a cousin that had a different lifestyle, and he lived in Hoover, His name was Prince. I don't know if that was a first name or last name. That's what I have to offer.
Thank you.
All right.
Anyone else want to speak to this item? Going once, going twice. We will close this public hearing. Chair would welcome a motion and a second.
I will move to condemn.
Motion from Ms. Andrus, second from Mr. Gwaltney. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous, and that is Resolution 1891. All right, 280618, public hearing set for tonight for consideration to set a public hearing to declare the property located at 507 Tamworth Lane public nuisance based on violation of ordinances 1910 and 1750, excessive growth. We will open this public hearing and get a report from Mr. Cook.
Yes, this property is owned by Geraldine Cartledge at 507 Tamworth Lane. Sent 2 notices out, first one giving 10 days to come in compliance. At that time, nothing was done. Asked for a public hearing. Public hearing was set, sent out another notice, posted the property again. Since that time, the front yard has been somewhat cut, but there's still a lot to be done in the front, side, and rear of the yard.
So what's your recommendation, Mr. Cook?
Recommend that we declare it a public nuisance and take care of it ourselves.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions?
I have one.
Yes, Ms.
The
Smith.
car that's in the driveway, is it being used, or is it just,
I believe so. The last notice that I sent looks like it was signed for by, looks like a David Cartledge.
okay.
So
The car
you know,
is,
So, yeah, I feel like the
Okay.
car is being used and someone is living there.
I gotcha. Okay.
But I have had no correspondence or
communication.
anything from them.
Okay.
No communication?
None whatsoever.
Okay. Let's make sure that's duly noted. All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else who wants to speak to this item? If not, we will close this public hearing and await a motion and a second from the council.
I will move to declare a nuisance.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Andrus, second from Mr. Wright. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you very much, and that is Resolution 1892. All right, we move on to the next item, which is 290618. Public hearing set for tonight for consideration to declare the property located at 1801 Kensington Road a public nuisance due to a violation of ordinances 1910 and 1750, excessive growth. We will open this public hearing and let Mr. Cook enlighten us.
Okay, this property is owned by Barbara Statham at 1333 Riverford Circle in Hoover. The house is vacant and has been vacant for a number of years. We have declared it public nuisance, I know of once before, and cleaned it up, placed a lien on the property. I also had a car towed from, abandoned car towed from the driveway about 2 years ago. And so it's just grown up again.
I understand your recommendation is?
Declared a public nuisance, and we'll go back on the property and clean it up.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cook. Any questions? Mr. Jones, I'm sorry. Mr. Jones.
We talked about this before, so there's really not any recourse for repeat violators.
We could sue them and ask the court to declare it to be a nuisance, but it's going to be about the same thing as we're going to do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else here that wants to speak to this particular matter? Please come forward.
The owner could also be arrested. That's the only other.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if there is no one else, we will close this public hearing
that look good.
and welcome a motion and a second.
I would move to declare it a public nuisance.
All right, motion from Ms. Smith, second from Mr. Wolverton. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is Resolution 1893. And Mr. Jones, to follow up on your comment, we'll certainly look at every option and possibility.
Thank you.
This particular one, I agree with you. 300618, public hearing set for tonight. To set a public hearing to consider declaring the property located at 1649 28th Avenue South a public nuisance due to violation of Ordinance 1098 litter and Ordinance 1310 open and unenclosed storage. We will open this public hearing, and I am really interested to see what you have to say, Mr. Cook.
This property is owned by Richard Hyde at 1649 28th Avenue South. That's where he resides currently. I have had no contact with Mr. Hyde, although I have posted the property. I have sent him notices, and I've also left notices on the door in case he did not sign for them. As you can see from the pictures, he has done a lot. I wished I'd had pictures of all the stuff that was in the yard prior to. He's done a tremendous amount of work. He's towed off 3 vehicles from the back. He's just done an amazing job in the short time that he was given.
But is all of these items still there? Even
No.
Okay, they're all gone.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's the before, I should have seen that.
I mean, we were getting complaints left and right on this property for quite some time.
Is someone residing there now, Mr. Cook?
It's my understanding that he is residing there on and off, and he's building a house in Florida. So I think he's going down there, working on that, coming back. But from the work that's been done, he's been back here doing a lot of work.
So therefore, your recommendation is?
To drop.
I'm going to ask a few questions first, and not to discount anything he has done, because this is incredible. This place was, and I know you weren't there to do this, Mr. Cook, but could you comment at all on the house itself? I mean, I know he's cleaned it up, but he's had the house wrap exposed for years now.
Years.
What kind of shape's the house in?
Yeah, the tar paper's been on the house ever since I've been with the city, and that's going on 12 years now. He had scaffolding on the right-hand side of the house and vinyl siding sitting there always. I'm going to put it up there, I'm going to put it up there. He's done away with the scaffolding. He's done away with the vinyl siding. I think he's pretty much trying to clean up to come into compliance. When he gets his house built down there, he's going to sell this one. And
Mr. Cook, and maybe this needs to be directed to Mr. Kendrick. Do we have an ordinance in the city that would restrict how long someone can have a tarp on a roof?
Probably so, but it'd have to be unsafe.
Well, we've got a property maintenance code that gets pretty picky on some things. Mr. Wyatt, I'm sure, can address that.
Well, and the reason I ask, I'm not saying that this evening is the night to, we've got the ball rolling is my point, and I think we should press, because it is not appropriate for him to have, no siding on the home. So let's stay on him. He's done an incredible amount of work. I commend him for that. I know he is a repeat offender, pretty bad one. So,
but we've never been on the property and taken care of himself. He's always done it himself, but he is a repeat offender.
Yeah. So, and we have heard he's moving to Florida. I think he's building a house out of tires. So.
Better in Florida than here.
Maybe that's where all this went. I don't know. But yes, if we can keep pressing him to remedy these other issues with the home.
Okay, I will get with Mr. Pugh this week and discuss that.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Pugh?
I don't think so. I don't think Mr. Pugh's been out to see this one, have you? Okay.
All right. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak to this particular matter? If not, we will close the public hearing. Chair would welcome a motion and a second. Motion from Mr. Jones, second from Mr. McCluskey. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And that is unanimous. Okay? 310618, public hearing set for tonight for consideration to set to declare the property located at 1117 Hardwick Lane a public nuisance due to a violation of Ordinance 1098 litter and 1310 open and unenclosed storage. We will open this public hearing. Mr. Cook.
Oh, yes, this property is owned by Nicole Johnson at 1117 Hardwick Lane. We've been getting quite a few complaints on this one. We did post the property about 4 weeks now about excessive growth. At the last minute, she did come and cut the yard. It's probably getting close to that, have to address again. But as you can see, all of the debris, all the leftover building material scattered about the yard and tires is something that we need to address tonight. I have had no contact with her whatsoever.
And therefore, your recommendation is?
Declare it a public nuisance, and we'll clean it up and put a lien on it.
All right. Anyone else want to speak to this particular item? If not, is there anyone else? There is not. We will close this public hearing. Council comments? Any? Council motion.
I would make a motion to declare this house a public nuisance.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Gwaltney, second from Mr. Wolverton. Any further comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That'll be Resolution 1894, and that is passed unanimously. 080618, public hearing set for July 23rd at 6 p.m. for consideration of a preliminary development plan submitted by Charles Kessler, CADCO, for owner Charles Kessler, Ben and Ashley McCullers, and Albert Evans for 800 through 808 Salter Road and 809 Carr Avenue to develop a 12-lot subdivision. And we will carry this over, and this is in fact set for July 23rd, 2018. 090618, public hearing set for tonight for consideration of the zoning application of Charles Kessler, CADCO LLC, to rezone same 800 through 808 Salter Road and 809 Carr Avenue from NPD to PRD1 to develop a 12-lot subdivision. And again, this is carried over and set for July 23rd, 2018 at 6 p.m. All right, 140618, public hearing set for August 13th, 2018 at 6 p.m. for consideration to adopt changes to the zoning ordinance put forth by Homewood Planning Commission and Greg Cobb with BEZ. And this is also carried over and set for August 13th, 2018 at 6 p.m. Okay, we'll move on to 030518. This is a request for consideration of an ABC 020 restaurant retail liquor for Magic City Sweet Italian Ice LLC DBA, doing business as Magic City Sweet Ice, located at 715 Oak Grove Road, put forth by Melody Salter, our city clerk at the time. Report from Public Safety, Mr. McCluskey.
Yes, I believe we sent this out with, let me find it, hold on a second. The committee met and voted 4-0 to recommend having no objections pending letters of no objections from the fire and police departments. A motion was made by Councilor White and seconded by Mr. Wolverton. And I don't know, Mr. Wolverton said he may have talked to the owner today and that.
Yeah, I got a message from the owner saying that they passed their inspection.
Have you heard that, Mr. Burgett?
I have not heard about the inspection.
Okay.
They came at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Okay.
Well, we can make a motion contingent upon verifying that.
That is correct.
Yeah. All right, that being the case, thank you, sir. That being the case, is this a public safety motion or not? Do you think, Mr. Mc? It is, Mr. Jones? Thank you. All right, since we have this motion from public safety, all in favor, again, contingent upon verifying that information, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. 030518 is passed. 010118, request for update on Hollywood Boulevard Bridge by Mike, I always say Kaz, of the Regional Planning Commission. Ms. Andrus, do we have a report from Finance? Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The committee met on July 2nd voted 4-0 to recommend matching the funding for Mountain Brook of $200,000, requesting Mayor McBrayer to add this item to the capital funding budget for next year. So 4-0 coming out of finance.
All right, so we have the motion from finance, and therefore, that is the motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that is Resolution 1895.
No, sir, there's no resolution, we discussed.
There's not?
just a
Okay.
report, yeah.
Just
I'm sorry.
report it to
Thank you.
Mayor for his budget consideration.
I had bad information, my fault. Thank you. All right, 010618, request to authorize the mayor to sign a contract with Data Ventures for scanning court documents, requested by John Morgan, our court department. Report from finance, Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The committee met, voted 4-0 to recommend approval of this item. It was already within the budget, so 4-0 out of finance.
All right, so we have a motion from finance. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, does that need a resolution?
Yes, sir.
I thought
Yeah.
so. So that is Resolution 1895, and that is unanimous. Thank you. All right, 220618, request to authorize the mayor to sign a 12-month contract with Cintas for fleet maintenance uniform services, requested by Gordon James. Report from finance, Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The committee met, voted 4-0 to recommend approval of this item.
All right, we have a motion from finance. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is
I abstain.
okay. So we have a 10:01, and Mr. White is abstaining. So that is Resolution 1896. All right, 230618, request for consideration to retire Police K-9 Shiloh and declare surplus due to health concerns, requested by Chief Ross. Report from Finance, Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. A sad item here for us to report out. We voted 4-0 to recommend approval of this item and declare Shiloh a surplus for the ordinance. Very sad situation.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. First reading, Mr. Kendrick.
Yes, sir, it's an ordinance to dispose of surplus municipal property. City council determines as follows. Hereby established and declared that the following described property of the Homewood Police Department is no longer needed for public or municipal purposes. The property is the police dog named Shiloh. Section 2, the mayor and city clerk are authorized and directed to transfer possession of Shiloh to Corporal Tim Springfield based on the fact that Corporal Springfield agrees to fully be responsible for the care and maintenance of Shiloh and provide love and affection to Shiloh in the future.
Thank you, sir. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for unanimous consent.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Thames, second by Mr. McCluskey. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wall.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Thames.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Higginbotham.
Yes.
Mr. Wolverton.
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mrs. Andrus.
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh.
Yes, so this will be ordinance 2707. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for adoption.
So moved.
All right, motion by Mr. Gwaltney, second by Mr. McCluskey. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gwaltney.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Thames.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Higginbotham.
Yes.
Mr. Wolverton.
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mrs. Andrus.
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh.
Yes, so 2707 passes unanimously. And our next item is 240618, request to amend the fiscal year 1718 budget for park and public works line item transfers, requested by Berkeley Squires. Mr. Jones, report, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The committee met, voted 4-0 to recommend approval of these transfers. We also added a transfer for the police department of $11,000 from the physical fitness line item to the K-9 line item. So 4-0 out of finance for all of those amendments.
All right, thanks, sir. So we have the motion from finance. Do we have any Further discussion?
Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes.
I apologize. I mistakenly incorporated this item along with the transfer and the next item, all in the same resolution. And I can separate them unless there's, the committee's okay with
I'm
that.
fine for making that motion from the
Both
floor that we,
recommendations, they were discussed,
we,
and I just
yeah, we
made
would
notes
make all the amendments
incorrect.
under that one resolution. So
Okay,
I'd
so
make that motion
you're
from the
talking
floor.
about the library one as well?
The
Yes,
library.
sir. 24 and 25
Okay, that's fine.
were combined into one by my mistake.
All right, well, just for the sake of voting on it, we have a motion from Mr. Jones, second from Mr. McCluskey. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good.
Thank you. Sorry.
Now, that's all right. So now we have, we have not actually voted on the request, though they've been added together. This would be Resolution 1897. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that is approved, Mr. Kendrick and others. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Fouts. So 330618, request for consideration of Central Avenue crosswalks put forth by Britt Thames. Report from Public Safety, Mr. McCluskey.
Yes, sir. The committee met and voted 5-0 to recommend approval to replace the sidewalks at South Reese Street and across Central, as well as installing handicap ramp on Park Ridge and crosswalk on 28th Court South. The motion was made by Councilor Thames, seconded by Mrs. Andrews.
All right, good. Thank you, sir. First reading, Mr. Kendrick.
Yes, there's an ordinance to provide for the installation of a pedestrian crosswalk across Central Avenue at the southern intersection with Reese Street, across Central Avenue at the southern intersection with 28th Court South, and across Central Avenue at the southern intersection with Parkwood Drive. Section 1, the chief of police be directed to install a pedestrian crosswalk across Central Avenue at the south intersection of Central Avenue with Reese Street as directed by the chief. Section 2, the chief of police directed to install a pedestrian crosswalk across Central Avenue at the southern intersection of Central Avenue with 28th Court South as directed by the chief. Section 3, the chief of police is directed to install a pedestrian crosswalk across Central Avenue at the south intersection of Central Avenue with Parkwood Drive. Section 4, that all drivers of motor vehicle as defined by the Highway Code of Alabama shall yield to pedestrians located within the crosswalks defined above. Section 5, if any person found guilty of violation of this ordinance, they shall be punished as provided by Section 1-8 of the Code of Ordinances. Section 6, all other ordinances or parts of ordinance contrary are repealed. Section 7, if any part of provision of ordinance declared to be unconstitutional by court of competent jurisdiction, all other parts remain in full force and effect. Section 8, that the ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its adoption by the City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Kendrick. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for unanimous consent.
Second.
Motion from Mr. McCluskey, second from Mr. Thames. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gwaltney?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Thames?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Wolverton?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes. So this will be ordinance 2708. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for adoption.
Second.
Motion from Mr. McCluskey, second from Mr. Gwaltney. Roll call.
Mr. Gwaltney?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Thames?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Wolverton?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes, so 2708 is passed unanimously. We'll move on to 270618, request for consideration to relocate approved sign for Service First on Rosedale Boulevard. Report from Special Issues. Ms. Andrews?
The committee met last Monday and voted 3-0 to recommend approval pending indemnification agreements. The motion was made by Councilor McCluskey and seconded by Councilor Higginbotham. And I just want to mention services SERVIS.
Yes, you are correct. Thank you. So we have a motion from Special Issues that stands as a second. Any other questions, comments? There being none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This will be 1898, Resolution 1898. All right, next item's committee referral agenda. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for approval of said agenda.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Higginbotham, second from Ms. Andrus. If there's no other discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that is unanimous. We now move on to other new business, for which we have 4 items. 030718, request to set a public hearing and referral to the Special Issues Committee for consideration of a sign variance at 828 Green Springs Highway, requested by Megan Ellis, Greg Cobb, our BEZ, and we'll schedule that public hearing for August the, where's my calendar? Excuse me. Is that the first August meeting?
We already have a public hearing set for the 13th.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, I didn't have it down, but that sounds good to me. For August 13th, and that is set. Okay? Now, 040718, request for consideration of an ABC 020 restaurant retail liquor for West End Restaurants LLC doing business as Bricktops, located at 2800 Highway 280, requested by Robert Burgett, our city clerk. Do we have all the approvals on that particular item?
We have the police letter. We're waiting on the certificate of occupancy and the fire approval letter. But I was told that they are pending once the CO is issued.
Okay, and we have?
I'm Melinda Sellers,
Ms.
representing
Sellers?
the applicant. Yes, sir. I was supposed to hear from our other final inspection from the state, I thought today, but I didn't receive a call. They may be backed up due to the holiday, but hopefully that inspection will be this week.
Well, again, Ms. Sellers, what we can do is similar to the other item is approve this contingent upon getting a positive response from both police and fire, okay?
That would be great.
Any questions for her?
I'll make a motion to move without having no conditions of the license based on final inspection and letter from the fire department.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCluskey. Do we have a second? Second from Ms. Smith. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. 050718, request for consideration of approval of vouchers for a period of June 25th through July 10th, 2018, from our city treasurer and finance committee. Mr. Jones, is it your turn?
It's my turn. It's going to be a great quarter. Looking forward to it. So I looked at those and would move to approve the vouchers for period June 25th through July 10th.
All right. So.
Oh, thank you.
Wait. I have to give my little speech yet, please. We have a motion for Mr. Jones. Do we have a second from Mr. Higginbotham? Second. I see. I understand. Okay. All right. So all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This is Resolution 1899, and it is approved. Our final item tonight is 060718, request to consider proposal from Captain D's to purchase city property at 431 Green Springs Highway, put forth by our mayor. Chair would welcome a motion in a second.
I would move to approve.
Motion from Ms. Smith, second from?
Second.
From
Ms. Andrus.
Ms. Andrus. I'm sorry. Someday you'll be 65 too. I'm sorry, everyone. It happens. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is 18100, and it is passed unanimously. And Mayor, we look forward to your comments, sir. Okay. Like my brain a few minutes ago. That was good. Okay. Mr. Quality?
I have nothing tonight.
All right, Mr. Thames? No committee?
Mr. Thames?
Yes.
I think isn't Lindsay coming next week?
See?
What's
Saving
up
his young
with that
brain.
side of the room?
I do serve a useful purpose.
30 minutes, Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir.
Probably should be 30 minutes.
Okay, good. Mr. Higginbotham?
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't really have anything on my own behalf. I would note the presence of Ms. Felicia Stewart, who's running in House District 46. I don't know if your intent had been to address us or not, but.
It was not, but thank you for the shout out.
Okay. Well, I know sometimes candidates attend and they don't know protocol and they don't ask the chair, and so they don't get to speak beforehand. So I just wanted to acknowledge your presence. That had been your intent, because God bless you sat through the whole thing. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Good. Mr. Wolverton?
I really don't have anything, just that you guys have fun the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be out on vacation, so
Enjoy.
thank you.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes, well, now that Mr. Wolverton said that he won't be here next week, I will not be here next week either. So, Mr. Thames, Mr. White, Ms. Andrus,
I'll be
will
here.
y'all be here to where I can call public safety?
Yeah. I'll chair it. Do you want? I'll chair it for you if you want me to.
Okay, yeah, we'll do, how long do you need, Mr. Thames?
He needs 30 minutes.
30 minutes? Okay, so 6
She
o'clock.
just volunteered to chair.
Yep, so we have a volunteer for chair. And based off of what's on here now, I don't know, Mr. Mayor, do you know the item that was sent to public safety as far as parking? Is that going to be a long item? It's got your name on it.
I don't, well, it depends. I know two people wanting to come back, business owners who
Okay,
continue to have issues.
okay. I would say at least,
I wouldn't think any more than 15 minutes unless the council wanted to go into a lot more
okay,
discussion.
well, we'll do 30 then for the entire agenda, so that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Finance at 5, and congratulate Mr. Johnson there, young Mr. Johnson, for sitting through the meeting. Usually we see scouts maybe leave a little bit early, but you weathered the storm. And tonight was also a great example of there always is going to be a need in the community to help others. Some of these things are very disturbing to see, these properties in Homewood. So there's always going to be a need, I feel like, to help each other out. But when all else fails, we have to step in. So it's kind of sad. But thank you for being here for the whole. You did a great job with the pledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
I'll set special issues for 6:30, and I think I'll just need. Britt, didn't you talk to the transit folks about, because she was going to come and then?
Yeah, we won't have them next week.
Okay, they won't be here next week. Okay, that's just, so I probably only need 15 minutes.
Good. Thank you, ma'am.
Nothing tonight.
Thank you, Mr. White. Ms. Andrus?
I have been informed that we have Jefferson County District Attorney Mike Anderton in the audience. Is that correct? Say hello. Running for re-election.
Thank you.
Say hello.
Thank you. I apologize for being late. I had a family friend, church member who passed away, so I had to make the visit.
We understand.
I apologize for being late. Thank y'all for having me.
No problem. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service to this point. We appreciate it.
Is it for me?
All right, Mr. Wright?
No, I've thought about it long and hard. I think I will take the 6:45 time slot, and we're gonna run that meeting until it ends. Okay. So anyone else behind me will just have to grin bear it. So we'll do 6:45, just a couple items. It'll probably be hopefully 5 or 10 minutes. Nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Wright, someday, I'm going to start on your end rather than on the other end, but not tonight.
I stay up at night dreaming of a 5 o'clock meeting. So,
With that, I have nothing, so we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I must have missed that. Dropped it. They don't.